All right, let's dive into the soulful, really jazz-infused world of Olivia Dean's Man I Need. Now, on the surface, it is such a smooth, beautiful track. But if you listen just a little bit closer, you'll hear this incredibly powerful and vulnerable plea for connection in a world that is just full of mixed signals. So, let's get into it.
The song just pulls you in right away with this one simple, kind of hesitant line. It immediately sets this mood of longing and uncertainty. And she's not asking about a physical place, right? She's asking about an emotional one. Where are you really? That's the question that gets this whole thing started.
So yeah, that opening line is the perfect setup for the first part of the song, which is all about creating this atmosphere of longing. It really explores that invisible, emotional space that can just open up between two people, even when they're right there in the same room.
And look at how she builds this feeling of ambiguity with the lyrics. It's so clever. She starts with this big cosmic metaphor, a satellite ain't even that far, to show you just how huge this emotional gap feels. And then she immediately brings it right back down to earth with pure vulnerability. I'd like to think you feel the same way, but I can't tell. It just perfectly captures that feeling of hoping for one thing, but being so afraid of another. You know, the verses just nail this very, very modern relationship problem. You can be physically there, you can spend all your time with someone, but still feel completely in the dark about where you actually stand with them emotionally. It's that super frustrating gap between what someone does and what they actually mean. But then we get to the chorus, and everything kind of changes. The song makes this really powerful shift, moving away from that quiet, internal monologue into a direct, almost desperate plea for some clarity. And you can see the shift so clearly right here. The really tentative, I can't tell from the verse, becomes this direct command. Just come be the man I need. The quiet wonder of where you are completely transforms into a challenge. Tell me you got something to give. She is just so done with guessing. Now she's demanding answers.
So, what does she actually mean by the man I need? Well, the song pretty much gives us the definition. This isn't about old-school traditional roles of strength or providing for someone. No, based on her own words, the man she needs is a partner who is emotionally available, who communicates clearly, and who's actually willing to give, to invest emotionally.
And it's so important to see it's not just about having these big, heavy, serious talks. I love this line because it shows the need for simple, everyday affirmation, you know? It's about the small moments of just being seen and being valued. Like she sings, whatever the type of talk it is, the whole point is that she wants the connection to feel real and, this is the key, to be spoken out loud.
So all of this really leads us to the core obstacle that the song is trying to get over. The problem isn't a lack of feeling necessarily. It's the exhausting emotional labor that's required just to figure out what those feelings even are.
This line right here, this is the absolute heart of the song's frustration. Stop making me read between the lines. It is such a direct command to just end the games and the ambiguity. This is the moment she finally says the problem out loud and demands that it changes. She's just tired, you know? Tired of having to be a detective in her own relationship.
And this cycle is exactly what she's trying to break free from, right? It starts with some kind of unclear signal. Then you spend all this emotional energy just trying to decode what it means, which, let's be honest, usually just leads to more uncertainty. The entire song is basically her attempt at step 4, making a direct request to finally break this pattern.
So where does all this lead? Well, the song's final section, the outro, it boils her entire plea down to its most essential, most powerful message. It's the one single action that is the foundation for everything else she's asking for. After all the wondering and the pleading and the frustration, the solution she lands on is actually remarkably simple, even if it feels profoundly difficult in the real world. Everything boils down to this one action. This is it. The first time we hear it, it just lands with such perfect clarity. It is the direct, straightforward answer to her demand to stop making me read between the lines. The second time, as it kind of settles into that smooth, soulful beat, it starts to feel less like a request and more like a mantra. It becomes the actual rhythm of her central need.
And now the insistence is building. This isn't just a wish anymore. It is the fundamental, non-negotiable core of the connection she's asking for. Everything else, all of it, is built on this one thing.
By the time we hear the final repetition, the phrase has completely transformed. It's no longer just a plea, it's the song's central truth. To be the man I need is, first and foremost, to simply talk to her. In the end, communication really is everything.
Olivia Dean's song is just this beautiful expression of a very, very human desire for clarity. And it leaves us with a question to think about, doesn't it? In our own lives, which are so full of texts and subtexts and all these confusing signals, what is the real power, and maybe even the risk, of just turning to someone and asking for what you need directly?